Welcome back to the NFT Talks podcast. I'm your host, Sean, and today we have the platform called Realm, which is all about the metaverse, creating micro metaverses. We have the two co-founders, and that is Jordan and Matt, and they're talking about everything to do with what they're doing on their project. They're based out in the UK, they're doing amazing things. This was recorded back in September, however, it's still relevant. So much things to learn about, especially with the announcement of Meta and all the talks about the metaverse and all the hype around that. So guys, make sure you listen, get your notepads out, and let's help build this community. All right, guys, so I'm back here with another episode of NFT Talks, and I'm here with the co-founders of Realm. Now, Realm is a creative place where you can explore your own personal microverse. So basically, you've got, I'm not going to go into the detail because, to be honest, I'm not really too sure what you guys are doing. It's really interesting because I understand the metaverse is the future, but you create NFTs within that metaverse, and it's not only going to be one metaverse, it's going to be lots of mini metaverses, I'm assuming. So before we get into it, I want you guys to introduce yourself, just give a bit of background. It's good to have familiar accents for once from the UK. So shout out to you guys from the UK. Jordan and Matt, how you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Okay, so we'll start with Jordan. Just give you a short introduction about yourself and your background.
Yeah, cool. I'm Joban. I am from the UK. My background, I have a long background in startups. I studied at Cambridge University. I also studied at music college, and I left uni and went into Mixcloud, Mixler, and various kind of audio streaming startups. That was where I learned about startup business and kind of got more into development, etc. And from there, I was in publishing, and then myself and Matthew started a company called Unified, where we worked together for a number of years and ended up exiting that company together. So we've had a long road together already, and you know, we're bringing all that experience into this project, and it's feeling really good. I'll let Matt elaborate on Unified a bit.
Yeah, so my background was actually I studied law at university, realized it was a terrible decision and the slowest career path ever. And then there was all these people. I'd always been interested in sort of technology and sort of designing things, predominantly a lot of electronics, hardware, stuff like that. And then got sort of involved with software. And then, so a few friends like Joban from London, and we were kind of looking at sort of what issues that we were having. So Apple have released this framework around Bluetooth, and we kept getting lost at sort of large events. And then we were like, okay, well, we could build an internal GPS system. So we built a GPS system, really hyper accurate system out of Bluetooth, and that enabled us to sort of position ourselves, position friends around buildings. And I guess that kind of started off our journey of creating a digital layer that an individual interacts with, that then connects them with the space around them. And weirdly now, we've kind of inverted that, and we're sort of building a metaverse, and we're just going into the digital layer and not necessarily physically moving around an actual building. It's only really just kind of realized how peculiar that is. We're kind of doing the same thing again now, just inverted. But the beauty of sort of making a metaverse is that there's no rules, there's no gravity, there's absolutely nothing. It's to the extent of your imagination. And I guess that was kind of the concept of Realm, was that when we were discussing sort of the metaverse, and, we love Decentraland and some of these sort of, experiences, but we were just unable to agree on what kind of metaverse we would build. So Joban's was different, Milan, the CTO's was different, mine was different. And then it was like, okay, cool. Well, it's maybe more interesting that we create these smaller little spaces that you have complete control over. And sort of in our conversations with artists, that's definitely become quite apparent. It's been the case where they sort of have a vision, and sometimes it can completely break the bounds of what you're even thinking of. It's not necessarily a three-dimensional space with walls or anything. It's just sound-based, and as you move through, there's slight change in the environment and an auditory kind of experience. It's Realm is essentially a collection of these sort of microverses that you sort of either jump into through augmented reality portals, so leaving this reality and sort of stepping into this virtual world. And once you're inside there, you sort of have an avatar and so on, and you can hop through this game type experience and explore all these spaces.
Okay. So before we get into the deep nitty gritty part of that, because there's definitely going to be a lot of questions I'm going to ask and a lot of things to talk about. I just want to know from you. Obviously, you guys have been working together. How did you hear about NFTs? Did you understand it straight away? And then where did it lead? Where did it lead from there? From hearing about NFTs to going into it, to what you're doing now?
I suppose I heard about them about 2 years ago, and I don't think I really understood them. I definitely didn't understand them. Like now, my understanding is that NFTs are essentially like the plumbing to transfer value for unique assets, digital assets, but they could also be attached to a physical asset. I think at first I just saw it as a certificate of authenticity, but it doesn't really function like that, because it's when you've got a programmable smart contract, you can start to do extra interesting things like the royalty structures that come afterwards. Potentially using oracles to make dynamic NFTs, whereby, you know, something could have happened in the physical world or in the digital world, say in a realm, maybe you've accessed a space, a particular realm, and then we would send out a signal to say, hey, this NFT has now been redeemed. So it's kind of like, you know, at first thoughts are always going to be, it's a paper certificate digitized, and then suddenly it's like, oh, hold on, it's so much more. And yeah, I guess that's kind of where I am with it now. But it gets stretched when you look at what the projects are doing, really.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my side, I was about 2017-ish, and I didn't get involved. I didn't collect much, but I was kind of really interested in a kind of intellectual way in how in kind of the implications, even for like law and everything, you know. And you know, I run a small record label, independent record label, and so the music aspect really grabbed me, because actually previously with our previous business we were working in entertainment venues in Ibiza. We were doing friend finding and stuff, so we have a long history in the kind of music business. And so I was really interested in how NFTs could affect the music space, and I think that's only really just taking off. You know, the art space, it's, you know, Chris G, Sotheby's, all this, but I don't see that level of uptake amongst the music community yet, and I think that's still to come.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, guys, is like, especially what you just said, Matt, is that I get that kind of excitement feeling from it, but that also same time overwhelming feeling from it, because there's so much happening, so much things you can do. This is where it gets, is like, where do you find direction? What do you do in this space? And I guess this is where it comes to Realm, because you guys are doing quite a few things. Yeah. I know you just touched on doing the microverses, but what you can do within the microverses is a lot of things. So let's start from the beginning. I mean, what I can do is I could share the screen or go onto the site, or we can just go through it. Which do you prefer?
We can just go through it if
All
you
right,
like.
cool. Let's do that. Let's start from the beginning though, and like what it is, and then for someone that doesn't know anything about NFT, so because a lot of people listen to this, so hasn't really got a clue, not really into the metaverse and whatnot. So
cool. So let's think about it. So maybe like the top level is that Realm is essentially like, you have a space, like a realm, a virtual space that we actually also mint. So it's an ERC 1155. So it's an NFT in its own right. Has an address. And it's got sort of like a 3D sort of file space. Like it could be, you could take one of our, say, templates, and you might just want like a conventional art gallery to hang some art that you have, some crypto kitties and things like this on the walls. You could take the template, choose kind of what type of template. Is it, you know, like a New York kind of warehouse? Is it a plain modernist sort of museum or gallery or something like that? You know, change a couple of variables, color of the walls, things like this, hang your art in it, mint it. This is your space. You can then adjust what occurs inside. Then what we do on top of that is we built like basically these just like small pieces of code. We call them smart objects, and they're just like things that you can drag into your space to do stuff, to add functionality. So we're building like a mobile app and a PC application, many different ways to sort of access these realms. And, you know, some of the things that you might want to do is say you have your realm and we want to do this talk show inside that realm.
Yeah.
Well, then we would have dragged in a smart object into the realm, and then that enables us to send live audio in there. And then now we can all stream directly through the mobile application and talk inside that given realm, and other people could visit the realm. So then in order to say manage some of the people that visit the realm, you can drag in a smart object called NFTs. So there are NFT tickets that have a little piece of art, say like some cover photo for this. We mint them as people arrive, and then we mint them on Polygon. So they're minted on layer 2, they're gasless. And then they would sit in your wallet, and they kind of act a bit like, about like adverts, like kind of pointing towards either the artist, the collection, or the realm itself. So those smart objects are just designed to just make it really simple for you to do things inside that space. Another smart object might be like, oh, you've designed a really cool space, like a unique space, like a unique gallery, for instance. And now you want to throw an exhibition for, say, 3 different artists. So you've got, you know, a bunch of different spots on the wall, and you say, okay, now you can go and rent this spot or reserve this spot for 7 days, etc., and sort of monetize or I guess commercialize the space in some way.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, so like, and then I guess ultimately what we try to do is we try to sort of on the top of that have a kind of like a social graph inside the mobile application that enables people to sort of follow realms, follow users, follow artists, follow collectors. And then once you sort of go and explore these spaces that say have one artist's art inside it, we'll then use that to sort of infer other people inside your social graph, infer what they might be interested in seeing. And that's partly just because like things like OpenSea are really pretty difficult to navigate other than the collections list, which I guess in many ways is sort of like a realm for a collection, but it's just in 2D.
A quick question, a few questions actually. So based on what you said, how easy is it to create your realm? Because you mentioned about, do you have to be a coder, or is it simple as saying, okay, I want green walls, click green, this changes? So I mean, is it the adult version of Minecraft? Like you can build your own little community. I mean, that's really simplifying it.
Yeah, I mean, so we looked at, you know, the sandbox, etc., and they've got the more Minecrafty style. So we're not trying to be, we're not going for the kind of blocky style. We're doing, but it is intended to be simple, right? So there's one version where there's a templated approach, so you can pick a template and customize, you know, in a very simple UI, and then kind of just mint the space. And then for advanced creators, we're already working with some artists to import their 3D files from like professional modeling software. And so we've got a pipeline built that handles that and then makes it a playable, like explorable space, which for professional artists to suddenly be able to turn their, you know, what they spent ages making and then just basically compressed to a video file and sold, now they can make it into a proper world, you know, as they imagined it. So that is also, so we have the professional level and we have the user-friendly kind of non-technical level. Okay,
and the use case wise is what I really found interesting when I looked into it is that, okay, then, which I thought was true, is that if you've got a drop, you only can announce it. There's nothing really creative you can do with that unless you're doing it at Christie's or Sotheby's or some kind of, there's nothing you can do at this point, which is strange because it's digital. There should be no restrictions and creativity. So the fact that you can create your own space and do what you want with that, and you can make it themed along with your project, and people can enter it. I really think that's cool. So is that your main stance in regards to targeting that audience, or is it the case of that if I'm just a normal collector, I want to showcase it? Because I know there's lazy.com, is that right? Mm-hmm. And there's Nifty, Nifty's coming out. So they're starting to pop up, but they are still really just plain websites. It's still at this point, there's nothing much you can do with them. So is that your unique selling point, would you say? Is that an approach you're taking? Or?
Yeah, I think, you know, what first happened to us was really when we looked at kind of some of these marketplaces, they reminded us far too much of eBay. And, you know, that was designed 2 decades ago. And it was just a case that, so we have all these incredible like 3D art, cutting edge art being produced. And then we just look at it in a flat image and it felt like backwards. It felt like not really using your imagination to like the best way to kind of potentially experience this. And that's actually, I guess, partially what we think is it's about an experience. It's, not just seeing a spinning model, it's like walking around it or getting inside the model or something. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the artists, they already have some of the most exciting models, like 3D models. Later down the line, I guess we know like some of the collectors that we work with have got big collections of really, really nice art, and we've made them some really cool gallery spaces. And for them, it's like having some like out of this world, literally, environment with nice music where people walk around and they can potentially invite and limit who comes in and out. And it becomes their virtual space inside the metaverse that, that can also be embedded. So we're looking at, we've already built out a methodology so that anything that's inside our mobile app could sit in, say, any brand's mobile app. So we see this metaverse not being, say, accessed by like at decentraland.org, but being accessed from, say, Nike's website, Nike's mobile app, from all these different spots. And really the way we're seeing it is that the metaverse is just a 3D representation of what a lot of these brands, artists, or individual, just people, really. They're all just essentially people that do something in a flat form on a website or in a mobile app, and we're now putting it in 3 dimensions. We just happened to start with artists because, like I say, they had the best models to make the most interesting spaces. They've got great communities, and often they're like, I think they feel a bit like held down by just like putting it like it's just a flat image. It's like, oh, they can do a lot more. So and it's great to work with people who, I suppose, like already have a level of understanding, saying like C4D or Blender or something like this, and we can work together, and then we can easily onboard them into the game engine. Going forwards, it's I think like the next quarter is going to be predominantly about making really simple like builder tools that enable, say, the average Joe, like a bit like a Roblox kind of environment, to create their space, which is a bit more unique.
All right. So obviously, like you mentioned there, at the moment you predominantly focus on artists, because I understand, because that's where the space is at the moment. That's where the exposure. That's where people are producing NFTs and work. Obviously, Jordan, you mentioned the music side of it. I could also see it working like for listening parties and stuff. I mean, for example, like imagine Kanye West. He had his thing in the football stadium the other day for done that, and imagine he done that in Realm, like, and he created his own realm, and things would change into the music and all sorts. Is that the kind of things that you can visualize happening in the future?
Yeah, we're having those conversations right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so cool. So when you're trying to build out a new metaverse, you kind of have this like balancing act between how long it takes you to create spaces like these realms, and then and then like trying to obviously keep people entertained inside, ultimately inside the metaverse. So the great thing you can do there is you can change the content that happens inside these realms. So it's for instance, like we've made like this space called the Temple of Doge, which is like this obscenely like meme-tastic biblical environment, which we plan on turning it into a sort of like a very stupid event space. And we're talking with kind of artists to sort of bring in the live audio and have all these avatars and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. So another thing is, do you have to have an avatar? You have to have an avatar. I mean, and
you do, yeah.
And you mentioned that, okay, is it going to be only mobile based? So I mean, obviously you got things like this, the specs you can have and stuff like that. So are we just focused on desktop and mobile first, or can people get specs and still view these realms?
Right, so a couple of things. So regarding avatars, you do have an avatar when you enter the realms, and we have like a stock avatar set that you can then customize and find items throughout the realms that would give you some individuality to your avatar. But we're also working with some artists on their own kind of proprietary characters. So like Kid 8, for example, has the evil character, and we will be, at some point you will be able to purchase a Kid 8 avatar and run around as his character, and the same with some other kind of artist IP. So there will be like a whole new world of avatars from NFT artists themselves. So that should be really cool. What was the other question again?
The AR stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the
So
AR stuff, yeah, kind of.
we currently use like part of the reason we went with mobile is obviously like augmented reality enables you to sort of bridge this gap between what's real and what's digital. We do that with, I don't know if Joe could maybe pull up the video that we've got of one of like the AR type things where you're like dropping a portal in the room and then going through into these spaces and then you can interact. It's not fully at launchable point that we've still got a bit of work left, but we'll be doing like stuff with occlusion. So as you put your hands out, you'll be interacting inside the metaverse. And we're looking to like stretch that and really like mess around with your head a bit more and do things where like, you know, you can take selfies of your actual face inside, say in front of like an NFT sculpture inside the metaverse and share that kind of content. Or you could play as your avatar inside the metaverse. Yeah, and then I guess like everyone's hoping that we get to this stage where maybe like Apple or someone comes out with a really nice trendy glass, and you know we can start to like see this as we move around in places. I don't know, like we're making these characters called realmies, which is sort of like I don't know, they're like these weird creatures that we just sort of made up with this awesome kind of artist from Poke Studio, John. And yeah, they're kind of, you know, maybe they'll be following you around in the real world and all this kind of stuff.
That game in the field, this is just what I thought as soon as I read that, a game in the field of like Tamagotchi, what's it called again? Sorry. Tamagotchis meets Avatar, like them kind of wild animals. I don't know why I thought that was, when I read that, that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, I'm not sure it's going to be exactly that, but you're going to have like these wild creatures just living there, and you can go into a different realm and come across a creature you've never seen before. And are they going to be able to attack you? I mean, what is the point? what is the point?
I don't know. We should ask you that question about the attacking. We're like, should they be allowed to die? They're NFTs. Is that the equivalent of burning them? So it's like, you know, and is that a little bit bad for like, I don't know, the younger audience and stuff? I don't know if we should be entertaining the idea of death.
Well, but then are you going to look after them? I mean, if you don't look at, if you're not looking after them, they're just there, then nobody's, I think, what are people going to do with them if they can't? Tamagotchis died, didn't they, if you didn't look after them? So it's just that side. If you call them pets, that's what people do with pets. I don't see why not.
Yeah, no, so you do have to look after them. They have a happiness level, and they you know, so you need to entertain them, you need to keep them exploring, you know, gaining new things and leveling up. And then you also have to feed them. So we have a kind of ecosystem of plants and fruit and kind of various other ways of kind of giving sustenance to your realmies. And then in the future there will be breeding, you know, and that's when there should be some really interesting combinations. You know, we basically generate the realmies from randomness from Chainlink. They have a number of properties, and we call the Chainlink Oracle, and mint these kind of varying rarity realmies. And then obviously if you kind of breed you know, a Genesis or mythical one with another one, they'll take on some of the properties of each other, and then also some kind of fresh randomness. And you know, Gen 2, Gen 3 will get really interesting, I think.
So I'm assuming they're going to have some kind of value to them. Is that the point? They're going to have some kind of value?
Well, the market will determine the value. We will be auctioning some rare Genesis ones at the start, and every kind of series we do with different artists or different characters from different realms, we will be auctioning some of the super rare ones. But there's also, so we're very into play to earn as well. So yeah, we want it to be attainable for anyone if they, you know, work hard enough to kind of become a high enough level to bond with their own realmie.
Okay, so I thought, what age group? What's the age group for if you have to set a target? I guess that's a hard question. But I mean, really and truly, what's the age group? Because I'm feeling like I get that gamified feeling, which adults can play games clearly, but I mean, I can see kids also using this, younger generation. So for you, what do you feel who you're aiming at this point?
I don't necessarily know about age. I think quite a lot of people in crypto could be a bit older, but still, I don't know, it's, you know, there's a level of youth to it, isn't there? We kind of think about people as like, so we have like collectors, artists, and players. So there's some people who just want to kind of go and it's like casually explore, like through their mobile or something like this. It's like fun kind of social place. You can do it in co-op mode. You can go and just like hunt, like a treasure hunt through these digital realms and stuff. Pick up some NFTs. Some of them are going to be worth something. You'll find some realm tokens. Maybe you buy something with them. Maybe you decide to swap them out for, you know, ETH or whatever. So, you know, there's that aspect. And then there's obviously artists and stuff who are really looking to push the boundaries of like virtual spaces, having their own virtual environment in the metaverse. And then there's like these collectors who, in many ways, like, you know, they're the engine. A lot of the money that's coming in, that's keeping the creation and keeping the artists, you know, well funded, you know, and enabling them to create more art is also these collectors. So it's important that we get offer them spaces to exhibit their art, potentially in the future to be able to sort of lend their art out to do digital shows inside the metaverse. Yeah, I mean, age-wise, potentially, I mean, you know, it's obviously fairly young. We're targeting mobile as like, you know, the key place where the younger generation spends most of their time. I'd say under 30 for sure.
Yeah. You know what, I feel, because the reason why I asked that too is because when I have conversations, I'm in my 30s, but when I have conversations with people my age, if they haven't played games at all, especially if they haven't played games, trying to explain the metaverse to them and that whole concept and where I feel things are going to go in the future, they're like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with that kind of thing. But obviously the younger generation playing all these games like Minecraft, just the way they use the internet and whatnot, this is going to be the norm for them. This is not going to be strange. It's going to say, okay, I understand that. I can earn money here and so on and do that. So that's the reason why I asked. But the interesting thing I do want to ask is a more technical question, is that the ERC 1155s. Now, is there a reason why you're doing that? Is it down to, because you feel like, is it going for more volume?
I think
you've done that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the genesis of 1155 was from Engine, you know, which is a gaming first platform anyway. So the whole protocol is kind of is geared towards gaming, right? So and you know, now MetaMask supports which ERC 1155, which is a big development in terms of like usability. So wallets support it. It's just a lot more flexible. We can if we mint a realm as a 1155, we can kind of include a collection of, you know, ERC20s and 721s. You know, it's very flexible. And it allows us to also work with kind of consumables in a much better way. So high volume items like fruit, NFTs that can be consumed and burned, and all this stuff we can do in a much more gas efficient, quick, you know, just elegant way.
Yeah, and that's important at the moment, isn't it? Especially with the environment. And obviously, you guys says you're obviously using Polygon, which is obviously reducing the gas feeds and whatnot. But also, you got the whole aspect of planting the trees, and then planting the trees in reality in the real world for the environment. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so the concept, I guess, one, it's just a little bit like a play on this whole idea of like bridging the digital and the real world. So when you basically plant a virtual tree in the metaverse, we'll plant a real tree in real life using our partner Eden Reforestation. The benefits, I guess, are obviously you get to sort of mitigate the amount of CO2 that's being emitted from, say, our Polygon, which, bear in mind, is ETH is 9,000 times, well, Polygon is 9,000 times more efficient than Ethereum layer 1. So like to do a transaction. So, but there's still, you're left with the CO2, and it's just a case of like, okay, well, what can we do? If everyone's going to be spending more time in the metaverse, we may as well try and build it into sort of the economy that that basically it's sustainable by its own right. So these realmies creatures require food in order to stay happy, and the place that you would consume the food comes from trees or plants that you plant. And obviously, when you do this, we're saying, hey, if an individual plants some trees and then they get bought by the owner who has a realmy, then we build this like economy inside, which is kind of virtual trees are feeding the realmies. People have got this emotional attachment with their realmies and are exploring this metaverse. And now what we have is a metaverse which is able to sustain itself and not be kind of, a dirty, there was that whole like press scenario which came out where really like crypto overall was just taking a lot of heat, and it just felt like, well, actually it was a little bit overblown because all the banks and stuff, they have all their buildings and all their employees, and they're there for a third of their time in the day and stuff. None of that was incorporated into the costs, or the carbon costs. So it was just kind of like, hey, let's just like figure this out from the start. Like, how do we make it so that there is no carbon output? And it's not just trees. Like, we'll do other things. So we're building like aquatic realms and stuff. We'll do the same thing there. If any commerce that occurs inside that aquatic realm will be sort of basically sending money to a plastic bank and asking them to remove plastic bottles from the oceans. And it's just a touch really to try and just build it. Like, it doesn't cost much in order to do that. Just like, it's quite cheap. I feel like it's a necessary like foundation of any well-designed product. And why design like an economy which doesn't have that in mind when you've got full control?
No, I like it. I mean, I know that you pointed out that crypto NFTs, they're getting all the heat for this whole environment thing. And what you touched on, there's a lot of other things that could affecting the environment apart from obviously crypto and whatnot. But I feel it's a good thing, because now anyone that's in the space is kind of having to think about these things firsthand, like yourselves, and put these things in place. And I think it's going to just create a lot of interesting projects and good projects. People like, I mean, I've worked in sales pretty much all my life before, and people buy into people like to do things that make them feel good. And these are the things that you're touching on. Like, if I'm going to go into the realm and I know it's helping the real world and I'm doing good things in there, and I think it's a knock-on effect. I think it will work well.
Yeah.
So I do like the aspect of it.
Because we're all human as well.
Yeah,
and
of course.
It's when you gamify something like that, and it's just part and parcel, and all the like well, it's not necessarily loads of hard work. The hard work's for the people where you send the money, and then they then pass the money on to the community members. And then the community members go and plant mangrove trees usually. They're good for erosion. They're one of the highest like carbon capture. And like, basically we abstract all of that and just say, play the game.
Yeah.
And then, and then it just happens in the background, which I feel like it's the burden should be on business and product designers to get rid of all of that hassle, and not the consumer being like, oh, now you need to go and take your bottle and do this, and then, get your refund. And it's not right, not that way anyway. No,
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. Moving forward, I mean, what other things have you got in? I mean, say there's obviously things are moving rapid within the space, rapidly. Things are happening day by day. When are you when are you looking to drop actually the whole project and do that whole rollout and launch?
Yeah. So currently we've got an allocation mining event happening on launchpool.xyz. That's like an egalitarian process where it's to do with the token, sort of the main utility token in the metaverse. And basically we're raising about 400K there. It's gone crazy well. I think we're probably like basically what people do is they stake launch pool tokens, and then they get a certain allocation based on how many launch pool tokens they staked. The launch pool tokens were all given away at the beginning. So it was a kind of, that was split in a fair way. People then get sort of the same price and the same terms that the large venture funds like NGC, who supported us in the early days, got. So that finishes up on, I think, the 3rd of August. And then we look to probably launch the project around early September, beginning of September. We may launch the token a little bit quicker, potentially around 20th to the 20th of August onwards.
To touch on the tokens, because that's one thing I didn't really touch on. Touch on the tokens, play to the use cases with that and how people use it. I don't know if Jordan wants to jump in or.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's the primary utility token for the metaverse. So obviously we have Realm on Ethereum, we have our Matic Realm as well. So if you wrap bridge your tokens over to Matic, and we'd also be providing some liquidity on QuickSwap for people to easily get hold of the Matic version. And then within the metaverse, you can basically transact as you would in any other space with any other token, really. So it's the main token to buy things, to trade, to experience things. And actually, so 25% of our total supply we've we've earmarked for the community basically over the next 5 years. So it's really going to be, we're going to have a significant amount of tokens to provide back to creators, to provide back to players, and to kind of foster, from the off, if you're exploring the realms, you will be getting realm tokens for nothing, just for exploring, and then you will be able to use them, to buy trees, to trade with other players, and to, it's a kind of, we really want to foster the economy and reward creators with the token.
Yeah, I mean, I just get, every time anyone mentions that whole concept, I have to keep saying, I probably said it in about 5 podcasts already, but I'm thinking, I obviously missed a trick. Like the fact that the younger generation or anyone now is going to be able to go somewhere and spend their time, whether they're on a game, whatever they're doing, and get rewarded for that, it's just crazy. And then they can actually monetize that, like, it's going to be worth something. Like that whole concept, I think, like, it's just, time is money, which I understand. But at the moment we've lived, and we sacrifice a lot of our time without getting anything back with all these social media apps and whatnot.
I know, exactly. That's the problem with traditional social media, isn't it? We're giving them all of our data, all of our habits, likes, everything, social connections for nothing, and they're literally advertising it back to us. Whereas in this case, I think that's what's so great about play to earn. You've seen Axie doing really well, etc. People are literally making a living out of these ecosystems, which it's amazing, really.
All right, so moving forward, both of you guys, do you collect NFTs yourself?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So okay. Oh, Matt said it like, he's got a few big ones in there. I mean,
I'm a bit of a sucker for like these basically drops of like 10,000 procedurally generated pieces, like
the magic number.
Aliens and apes and silly things like that. What I'm really liking is where the Bored Apes came out and they're flat, and then they've handed over the IP as well, and then someone's gone and made the 3D versions of them, and then they're coming into the metaverse. And now, like, I'm basically in love with anything that's in 3D, because I'm just like, because it's just so much more utility when you can take this character or this piece of art and like go run around with it. They're kind of their social credit, their badges.
I think Meebit's done that straight away, didn't they? From the offset, Meebit's they've obviously offered the 2D and the 3D version. Yeah, like the Bored Apes, obviously that's turned a lot of heads, got a lot of attention. They've seemed to execute on what they're doing. It's got a lot of credibility, that branding wise. People, I feel like I interviewed some apes the other day, and everyone's out there creating, like they're doing all the work for the brands, which I think is crazy. They're doing all the work and building the brand and everything. So that's cool.
That's what's really cool though, for sure. I see that happening a lot. And obviously one thing that they're all touching on is the idea of like the clubhouse. It's like the space that if you have one of the NFTs, you now get into. Which is kind of where we see like Realm fitting in quite nicely. It's like, hey, well, we can manage access control into a virtual space. Say, for instance, you wanted to throw a party in there with 10,000 Bored Apes, then you could do that. Maybe you want to sell, for instance, access to people that don't have Bored Apes to come in, and then you pay those yields back to everyone who owns a Bored Ape. The community aspect is very cool though, the way that they sort of, they just will jump on board and start helping.
Yeah. Okay. So which project have you got? I mean, which one, and which one's your favorite one? We'll start with Matt, because we were talking about Bored Apes, but what have you got? Which one's your favorite one and why?
Currently my favorite ones are the aliens.
Okay. So, these are the lonely aliens. Is it lonely aliens?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I just can't remember which one I've got.
And how much did you purchase? Did you get it off from the start, or did you get secondary market?
No, I always go secondary market. Yeah, I'm always slow on these. I like 0.5 or 0.6. I usually buy a couple. Yesterday I bought a few Metaverse. They were probably the earliest ones that I get. To be honest, I quite like the idea of there's always like the randomness at the beginning, and I don't know what I'm going to get. So I prefer to just be like, oh, I like this one, and then I buy that. And I feel like it's good to anywhere where they have a fair launch, where it's kind of like 0.1 ETH or something like that, a flat fee. I think that's cool. And then someone comes in, they particularly like one of that unit or a couple of them, and then they buy them and they support the secondary market. I think that's like kind of good overall, because whoever bought it, first of all, one is making some money, and then they can go and invest probably again in the next project. And ultimately, like people are willing to pay more for stuff that they particularly like than just like this gamble that you get quite a lot, which is like, I'll just mint 20 and then, you know, one of them I like.
What I find interesting, and I want to give you a chance, Sean, to say what you've collected, but what I find interesting, we all agree on that NFTs at the moment are really built on community, but we're investing, buying into these projects that haven't even got a community yet. They almost sell you a dream to a extent, not a dream, a concept, and then people buy into that concept, and then the community is built then. Like, nobody knew about Bored Apes. Didn't exist. Even like the fact that, I mean, CryptoPunks, I think people connect due to just having it, and it kind of gives you that clout that you were there from the start, or if you've got a CryptoPunk, you've obviously spent a lot of money to make a statement that you've heavily invested into the space. Yeah. But that's what I just found interesting. There's nothing apart from this. Why I'm interested when musicians come into it, because they're already going to have new communities, and they're going to be able to do amazing things, I feel, with the NFT space if they do it right. There's a few things they're going to have to do wrong, but I just wanted to kind of say that.
I mean, obviously, you know, CryptoPunk's been around for ages, and they actually took off quite slow, I guess. But now, obviously, they are what they are, and but you know, the Bored Apes, the branding's amazing. Some of the branding, I think it's all about branding to get that initial community, and then as you say, they do a lot of the work for you. I mean, I've mostly been on the kind of art side of things, you know, foundation and Nifty and stuff. Like there's the collaborations with Slime Sunday and Blau and all that. Really nice pieces. So I haven't collected a huge amount of these runs of randomized characters, to be fair. I was trying to get a stone cat.
The Ashikuch and
just the gas went insane. It was pushed gas to 600.
And you miss it now, and then you want one. That's the thing. It's the FOMO kicks in, like 100%. Like you missed it and you think, I need to get one. I need to get one. If you don't control yourself, you can end up buying all these different collections. And I mean, what are you buying them for? Like, okay, then you're buying them to flip, or you're buying them because once you've got in your wallet, it's a bit of a status. I mean,
what we want to do is put them in the metaverse. Like we want to buy them and you know, turn them, if they're say with the stone cats, you know, we could totally make them into 3D models and you know, bring them to life in a, you know, we're just trying to augment the experience of these things. And then I guess by doing that, you know, in collaboration with the brand or just on our own, you know, we show that it could be more, right? I think that's you know, try and expand upon the horizons of these pieces.
What's your thoughts on celebrities entering the space? I mean, I don't know what celebrities you've seen really drop, what they've done so far. If you had to say that anyone's done a drop so far, who's done it the best, or what's your opinion? And also, who do you think should come into the space and what they should do? That's an interesting question. So 2 questions. One can take the first one, and the one you say, Joe Dan, you take the first question, and then Matt, you take the second one. So
celebrities coming into space. I mean, wow, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, you've got it depends what you call a celebrity. I mean, obviously we had Paris Hilton got very into the scene for a bit. But you know, I think what we often see with that is that they work through someone already skilled in the space. And so I think that's how they realize their vision, obviously, is like they work with someone who's already, you know, very skilled at building assets, and they kind of just put their name to it, which, you know, it is what it is. I mean, I've seen some really weird ones, like Robbie Fowler Nifty dropped, like an old Liverpool football player and stuff, like really strange stuff out there. But so I think that's really weird, and I don't get it. But obviously, if there's a market, why not, in a way? But it's not my thing personally. It's not. Yeah.
So would you say that is there nothing out there that's really caught your eye and say that that was done really well, or anything like that? Or I mean, top.
Well, I think Gary Vee probably did it the best, to be honest. You know. Yeah. He's always about adding value, and I think, you know, he comes out, he's going to do a really good conference. There's no doubt about it. I think like the way he's thinking about those characters is that he's going to build a huge piece of IP that's going to be like Disney, but his V friends, and he's going to do that over time. And the way he's attaching certain things like access to him is stupidly like great. Like everyone wants to get hold of him. Everyone wants to get on his podcast. He's like, I'll give you this. You just need to buy this thing off me for a few ETH. You know, it's like, if people didn't see that early on, like we were saying earlier, it's kind of like the certificate was really just the certificate, there's a thing behind, which was access to, say, his podcast or something like that, which would draw millions into your brand or whatever it was. So I feel like he did it quite well and it was pretty fair.
Do you feel that, Gary Vee though, do you feel that, Gary Vee, I don't think, personally, I follow him, and I don't know if you guys follow him. He's always, like you said, he's always preached about community, offering value. He spoke about IP. He was talking about bringing back brands and nostalgia. This is his big plan with the marketing. This just popped up and it fitted perfectly around what he was doing. I don't even think he had to try. Like he didn't, like I said, it didn't matter. He's doing his doodles and it doesn't even matter what the doodles are. People are just going to buy it just because of what is already offered already. And he's very hot on his community. He speaks to people and he understands. That's why I feel like he's doing well. I don't know if you agree.
And if you think about his audience as well, he's kind of, it's all about compassion and empathy and things like this. So it's kind of like, as these ideas become more and more popular amongst the youth that go forward and have been listening to him on, Spotify and podcasts forever, then these characters maybe do become, the Mickey Mouse. Like they do become really big. And actually owning one of these V friends is now just like a life-changing amount of money. It's not like 10 ETH or 15 ETH or something like that. It's like, 20 years down the line, maybe that's something absolutely outrageously valuable. And anyway, it's a good, these are positive sentiments that I think should be echoed. I'd like to see Daft Punk or someone like that do something absolutely epic. I mean, like their metaverse with like sound and stuff, and we're building things for like VR, so everything's built one-to-one, and at some point, maybe like early 2022, mid 2022, we'll sort of start porting things onto the Oculus. But yeah, I could just imagine like that experience is there, or like Tron or something. We kind of got to get there.
I can imagine that would be crazy. Something that they're already visually exciting in the real world. Just bringing that to the metaverse is just going to be crazy. Anyone else? Is there anyone else? I mean, what I'm really excited about is hip hop culture. I feel like it's in the real world. It's one of the most influential cultures in the world at this. But there's a slowly entering the space, but nobody's really done anything. Also, fitness, like even celebrities, people within that space, massive industry. Nobody's touched on it, unless you can tell me, enlighten me.
No, not on the fitness side. Some Peloton.
So how do you see hip hop culture utilizing NFTs then?
Well, it's everything down to whether it's music, through music, down to fashion, which is down to even breaking down music with beats and whatnot, down to poetry, down to just everything that you can do. I guess you can apply hip hop's being applied to it somehow, way or another. So even memorabilia, I think that's going to be massive in the way things are done in the future. So I'm excited.
Fashion brands are in for that. They're definitely like interested. That's where we love, like the metaverse. I feel like if you nail it, it's the trifactor of like music, gaming, fashion, and then it's just wrapped with this NFT mechanism to transfer the value. Definitely brands that we're talking to are interested in the concept of sort of, hey, I'm selling you these jeans. I'm also selling them with like pair of NFT jeans that can fit on the avatar inside the metaverse. And then if you think about, you throw a party and then you get sort of the avatar of a musician in the space, and say, for instance, you're only allowed in if you own those pair of jeans, or you got access and we limit the amount of people that can go to these virtual events. Then it can start to get really interesting.
I mean, even the point of like back down to like you can wear a piece of clothing at this point, but there's nothing you can do with engaging with it. So even having educational clothing, like imagine that. Like a lot of these brands, I've worked in the clothing industry for a while too, and I've worked with brands, and they always have a concept and a message that they're sending, a deeper message. But let's say that piece of clothing, that t-shirt, came with something educational or message with that you can tap into and read about or listen to or watch a video on. Or change day by day. Like I think a company's already done that. Is in a real physical T-shirt, you've got like I don't know if it's a QR code or whatnot, but you can put your phone next to it, and then it changes that it changes each day by day, and like almost like a filter.
Cool.
So yeah. I'm excited.
Artifact Studios are doing some wild stuff as well.
Yeah.
That's like full on. I'm like, whoa. I actually really respect their stuff. Like, it's cool AR. I love like the jackets and things like that.
Yeah, I still think it's a while before it takes off, because it's kind of glitchy and all the stuff. And then for the masses to take it on, I feel there's obviously a way to go.
You need the glasses for that. For it to really blow up, it's like, and they're in a good place now, because it's kind of like lay the foundations before hardware comes in. But, you know, if they take that position of sort of AR clothes that are augmented onto us, shoes, things like this, potentially combined with a physical, piece of clothing, you do that. And then the glasses come out, and it's kind of like, wait a minute, maybe people don't care about the physical and they just buy the digital clothes because everyone's looking. It's like, you can see that individual's got like some rad AR jacket on or something. And that's just like the vibe. I don't know, like maybe that's where it goes. It's about how far away are we? Are we much closer? Did lockdown bring us closer? I don't know.
I think it did. I mean, Jordan, I'd love to hear your perspective, like obviously being in the music side, like where do you think that's going to go? Music, events, tickets?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like we got people like Kings of Leon did an NFT album, didn't they? And but you know, I think those models where it's like, you know, it's almost the equivalent of the Skrelly Wu-Tang album, you know, where you sell like one super valuable copy of a piece, and like I think really we could just be democratizing new music distribution a lot more. So like anyone can buy it for not very much, but like the royalty structure is still there. You know, we can maybe have some kind of NFT streaming rights. You know, there's a number of things that like on a more technical level with rights management and royalty management that we probably could be doing, rather than like selling really like one-off pieces. Events obviously is going to be massive. I really think it is. I mean, we've already seen it in Fortnite. It wasn't in the crypto context, but you know, we had the Fortnite concerts and stuff, and you know, obviously that was amazing. And I think we need to replicate that. And that's sort of what when we designed our NFT structure. You know, I mean, it's like in many ways we're recreating the structure of a music venue in the real world. You know, so you can do a one-off concert, you can do a gig, you can do a membership, or like, you know, all sorts of models around that. And then, you know, the artists can have their avatars, the artists can get paid to play, the artists can like connect with their fans. So I think that is going to be a really big part of things, especially like with all the lockdowns, and especially, you know, for international people to you know, experience a show that they never would be able to attend in person, even when they, you know, when they start up again. So I think it's going to be massive.
Yeah, I think ultimately, based on what we've all said, is NFTs is bringing people closer, especially to like creators closer to their audience. Whereas beforehand, they would have to go through like a label, or they'd have to go for like a shop, retail and whatnot to sell their stuff. Whereas they can just monetize anything from the jump. And as long as they build their community, it's great. But I feel like it's going to be a challenge, because not everybody's going to be able to do it. Because let's face it, not everybody's good at marketing. I think you're going to have to be good at marketing and selling yourself and putting your brand out there if you want to really excel in this space, or because you can't just sit there and hope to get noticed. Yeah. You have to put yourself out there. So that's another side of it where I feel that there's going to be a lot of creators that are not like that. So what would you recommend advice-wise? Like I said, you guys are doing your project. What would you recommend to somebody starting a project, whether it's their NFT creator or they're starting a platform? What advice would you give to them of how to actually build their project and get out there?
I mean, I think for the artists, like we've spoken to a lot who, you know, it is massively about self-promotion, the NFT space. And you do need to kind of get yourself out there and really like work at it, like anything really, like music or whatever, you know, you are a kind of personal brand. And that's so you got to work at that aspect as an artist, but that's also what we're trying to do. We're really trying to provide avenues for people to kind of get noticed. We've got this concept of a Your Turn gallery where people can, it's basically a rotating series of artists who are on the smaller side, and we take 3 for a week, and then they nominate the next person. So then you get 3 different artists, and it spreads all over the world, and people can come every week and check out the art. So, you know, we're trying to provide a platform for discovery as well.
Okay.
From a project perspective, Matt, you can take that one.
Yeah, probably the best thing to do is just to like write a list of all your weaknesses down on a piece of paper and say, right, I'm shit at sales or whatever.
Yeah.
And then just find someone that can help you with that. And then just write it into a smart contract and be like, right, you get this much of the royalty if I sell a piece of art, because, you know, ultimately it's either marketing or closing the sale. Or it might be something like getting on the right platforms, you know, the amount of people I see struggling to get on kind of, you know, different NFT like marketplaces. We won't name any, but there's definitely like that stepping stone, that gatekeeper that they're always trying to get past. You know, I don't necessarily expect an artist to be a good salesperson. So it's probably just like figure out who could sell it for you and then just cut them in.
Yeah. Okay. So it's going to bring out different. You're still going to need to do. So this is what they're going to make. Everyone thinks they're going to come into this space and make money. There's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah.
There's a lot that you can benefit. You can build your brands, but you've still got work to do. There isn't much. It's just I feel like it's a reset button for their.
Yeah, but it's been amazing seeing like all these super talented artists who actually I've followed for years. You know, I've been really into digital art for a long time, and suddenly they are like, you know, vindicated and they're getting, you know, mainstream attention in the art world, and you know, it's been a big shake up in the art space, and that's really cool. So like it is obviously possible, and you know, the opportunities now for these people who've actually just been doing it for the love for ages are so much higher. So I think, yeah, that's a really positive thing.
I'm not sure if you guys, what I mentioned it basically, if you don't, if you sure guys have heard of the Weird Whale project with that 12-year-old.
No, I'm not sure.
You know, so okay, then so I might as well mention it because it's recent. And he's from London, so he's from the UK. 12-year-old.
Awesome.
I think his dad had been teaching him coding from the age of 5. I'll have to go put his name because I can't really remember his name, but he released a project called Weird Whales. Really like 8-bit pixel, nothing amazing to look at, but everyone bought into the story and what he was just trying it out. Brilliant. Sold out in 9 hours, made 160k. Like, so I just think that's crazy. Like at this point, like the fact that you can do that and the opportunity is there, and also selling yourself and putting your story, and people understand your story and why you're doing it. People buy into that.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the thing. It's like the internet enables you to sort of talk to so many different people. So as long as you put that story out there and you're authentic with it, hopefully some people will resonate with it, and the ones that don't, and that's fine. They'll probably just be trolls, maybe. Hopefully not. But yeah, the ones that do, like, go and, you know, support, get behind the project, and like we've been discussing, you know, go far beyond just putting a bit of ETH in half the time. Like, you know, they're out there doing all sorts of stuff, marketing, you know, the projects, like trying to build and assist with like 3D things, and you know, it's super cool. I guess people have got a lot of time on their hands as well now. You know, most of the globe's been locked inside, and it's kind of like we're pretty much left with one creative output, which is, you know, through the computer. So it's kind of like, may as well make new friends and like get on with it.
Yeah, I think it's important, and to get in the community, because everyone, like I said, everyone's very supportive. One thing I did find out the other day, and I did look into, is that the reason I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about the amount of people within the space. Now, I think there's no way I'm going to tell, but if you look on the projects like CryptoPunks and whatnot, and the owners, there's like, if there's 10,000 CryptoPunks, there's only like 4,000 owners. So people are buying in bulk, like yourself, like you said, Matt. People are buying in bulk. So there's still a lot of space for the space to grow. And not a lot of people are in it. It's just money being bounced around. So even though the volume's like 2.5 billion in the second quarter is a lot, but it's still small, relatively small, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think that's an interesting thing, is like with why we're working on Matic and Polygon as well, is that like obviously for a consumer market of like non-crypto natives to come in and buy, you know, a cheap piece of art and then pay, you know, upwards of $50-$100 in gas, it's not like, it's prohibitive, right? It doesn't work. So like it only works for like higher value items. So we want to, you know, we want to be able to bring the transaction fees way down. So then obviously, like, you know, maybe people do start off selling, you know, a lot of pieces for less money or something. You know, the models are going to change to allow like regular consumers to get into the market for less than you know, the big headline purchases.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason with NFTs as well. So like you could stick a piece of art like you would for say a concert, and you have the flyer that has some art on it. And it was the idea that, well, say I have this mobile app and then I decide to like, I'll just go check out this exhibition, or I'll check out this artist's space or whatever. And I get left with this little NFT that sits in my profile. And it's like, now we've just onboarded you to like having your first collectible. Maybe it was free. You didn't even pay to go to the event. Yeah. You could maybe tip the realm owner at the end of it, or so on. But yeah, ultimately we didn't, we knew that you needed to you need to make it accessible through the mobile and bring down the cost to get those first NFTs. And then obviously you have to have fiat in there. So you need to be able to like take a card payment or Apple Pay. You know, the NFTs with their art on them is a bit like when you go to the museum and then you get like a little print. You don't buy the Mona Lisa, but you get some print from the, the shop. And you take that home, and hopefully that's kind of one thing that will happen.
Okay, yeah, I think that's really interesting. So, guys, it's been amazing conversation-wise. We touched on so many things. I think the audience are going to love the conversation because we've gone from obviously talking about the NFTs. I think Realm's amazing. I'm really excited to see what you guys are going to do in the future. Where can anyone find you if they want to get in contact with you or look into what you guys are doing? Where's the best place?
Well, we're all over the place. So we got a great Telegram community. So you can find us at enter_realm pretty much everywhere. So Telegram, Instagram, Twitter. We've got a really nice Medium with a lot of kind of info about our thought processes and what we're working on. You can also find us at realm.art website, and there you can link to our white paper and check out kind of in a bit more detail what we're working on. And we're just continuously trying to update the community with videos and content from what we're working on, and just make sure everyone's involved in the process. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything positive you want to end on, Matt? Anything? Leaving a message.
No, crikey, put me on the spot. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess like in terms of like the metaverse and stuff, where it's like it's barely even begun. Like we're there's like an infinite amount of space there, which essentially enables people to create some environment where they can then put some attention in, and then people can come inside there. You don't need to. We've flipped the book. Really, we're not charging you for land. Some land you'll be able to buy in certain places, but anyone can create there. That was key. So just come and create your own space and let your imagination run wild. And I think anyone from anywhere around the world can come and visit your realm.
Yeah, and I think that's a good ending point to end on. So thanks, guys, for your time.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Sean.
Like I said, guys, any questions, just leave it down in the comments below. Everyone stay listening and stay blessed.